Captain Rainwater.
Yar.
We're going to say that's how you say Mr., but on a boat. Mr. Rainwater was actually privy to me trying to figure something out just moments ago where I asked a very smart-ass Amazon Alexa dot how to say Mr. in another language. And it asked me which language I should choose. And I said, surprise me. And she responded, I don't speak surprise me. Smart-ass. Anyway, we are taking a break today from our usual AI chat. I almost had an AI subject for us, I think. And you kind of vetoed it. You were like, let's talk about something else first.
Yeah, I want to take a little break. And I'm actually starting to fuck around with ChatGPT now, so I'll actually have some opinions, I think.
But not Midjourney yet?
Not Midjourney. I do want to mess around Midjourney for that that bird thing that I've been working on. Because I need to make some new ones, and I haven't really made any new ones yet.
Interesting. So when when you're trying ChatGPT, did you get the paid version?
No, I'm just using the free version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't use the free version, but... excuse me, I do use the free version. But a friend of ours, Buddy, paid for the pro version so he could try the GPT-4.
Oh, yeah, because GPT-4 can do, like, the programming kind of small games and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but he said that the server... I don't know the right verbiage for it, but this is how I understood it. Mm-hmm. He said that the server time is always kind of like in demand. Oh. Like there's a lot of people that are going for it, so it goes really slow. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's worth it. I mean,
how do
like
we define really slow?
What usually takes him like 5 minutes when he asks it to do it on a free version takes like hours.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough.
So I guess that's really slow. I don't know. He uses it for a lot of complicated stuff with his job, so I don't really know. But to me, I just ask it stupid stuff. I don't know if I told you this, but I asked ChatGPT to turn me into a cocktail, and it interviewed me and all that stuff like that. So it made a cocktail. So I'm gonna make a video about that, which is gonna be pretty fun.
I have only explicitly asked it stupid stuff. It's all stuff about like, hey, how can you make me money? It's like, I can't make you money. Like, what good are you then?
Well, see, I'm planning. I have like evil schemes. Like one of them backfired. I was gonna do one where I just I prompted Midjourney to do women's feet and then sell feet pics. And I thought that was kind of
brilliant.
Right? That's what I thought. And then it gave me 6 toes. So
hey, there's a market for that.
There might be. And I think it was just a one-time glitch, but I don't know. There's also the weird problem that your profile is technically public. So if anybody looked up my username, which it's not a Jow version, surprisingly or not, and they found it, you could see everything that I've prompted. So I don't know if I need feet pics just kind of out there that. Plus, I think, and don't quote me on this because I don't really know, but I would assume that if you're in the feet market, you kind of want to know there's an actual person attached to those feet.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I think that's part of the attraction. I don't know. I'm not a feet guy.
So you just make up the person.
I guess I could prompt a girl, and yeah, I could do that. I would just have to get really good at seeding so that I could repeat her images several times. Yeah. You can fucking catfish people so much easier now.
Oh yeah, nothing's real anymore. So.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not talking about that today. Actually, we are talking about duping people.
That's
right?
True.
In a way. We're talking about Scream 6 today. We're a couple weeks out. So, I guess we're behind the curve, but at the same time, enough people have had a chance to go and see it, so we're not really spoiling anything, because Lord knows we're going to get into the spoilers about it. So, spoiler alert. I have seen this movie 4 times? 4 or 5. I lost track.
Okay. I've only seen it once.
That is not going to be an indication of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I will let you take the lead because I'm the super fan of the two of us. So I will let you go before I do my thing.
Okay, I mean, we just want to start with overall feelings, basically.
Sure. Well, did you like it? Did you not like it? Were you indifferent?
I actually
where'd you land?
enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. Like, it's not the greatest Scream movie ever.
No.
And there are things I want to get into later that I texted you about after seeing the movie. Especially like a big thing that really bugged me, and this is probably the only thing that really bugged me, was that getting stabbed doesn't mean what it used to mean in a Scream movie. Like you can get fucking stabbed like 5 or 6 times and you'll live. You know?
Walk it off. No, you literally walk it off.
You walk it off. Exactly. It's like for whatever reason the main characters have like way more HP than everybody else. So like it's just kind of that was the thing. That was the one thing in the movie that I was just like kind of bugged by because, just kind of based on the foundations of the series. Like in the past, people didn't get stabbed that much and they died. You know, like it didn't take much to kill people. At the same time, like I had a lot of fun watching the movie. I think part of the reason why I had a lot of fun watching the movie too is I saw it in a pretty packed theater, and like everybody who was watching it was pretty actively like responding to the movie too, which adds a lot to it.
Sure.
Like, you know, like I'm laughing on things that like the guy next to me is riffing on. So like that expands the experience a lot for sure. I also thought like in general, like the cast, like the main cast, is really likable. Like it's a really likable main cast. Like I think when I saw the last Scream movie, I didn't think initially that I was gonna like the main girl, Sam.
Yeah.
And then by the end of that movie, I'm like, oh shit, I want to see where this goes. And then by the end of this movie, I'm like, oh shit, where is this going? Because like they keep kind of ratcheting this idea about her that makes her a very compelling main character in the Scream franchise, which is mainly like the idea that her father was the original like Ghostface basically. So like she's kind of got the psycho killer thing packed into her, and so it's like, okay, well, is she gonna become a Ghostface at some point? Where are we gonna go with, like, is she gonna become some kind of killer outside of just like killing all of the Ghostfaces, right? Because that's typically been the model, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of, yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about anything regarding what I was talking about.
Regarding what you were talking about?
Oh,
well,
on the top of your head.
It annoys me how you said like people get stabbed and they just keep going and it's like no big deal. Like literally we forget the fact that they were stabbed. Like they're not, and I don't know if that's an acting, a writing, or a directing criticism, or even an editing criticism. To be honest with you, it could be that. But it's a horror franchise. You know what I mean? It's not an action superhero franchise. In a horror franchise, people die. You don't give you don't give the audience a cookie at the end of the movie to make them feel good. The stakes need to be there. So if people are not dying, there are no stakes, and it's just like a CW gossip drama.
Yeah, there are a lot of characters who are kind of favorite characters who get stabbed in the movie that you're kind of like I can't remember her name, but the twin sister,
Mindy.
Mindy, yeah, like she gets stabbed, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's dead, you know, and like the scene in which she gets stabbed, I'm like, there's no way that she survives this. And then later on, she shows back up, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, she got clearly, like, super stabbed on the train. Which, by the way, that was a really good scene, too.
Yes, it was. It was an excellent sequence. I was a big fan of that sequence. But, see, the thing is and it was very echoey of the way her father, or her uncle died, Randy, right, in a public thing with people around and in broad light. And I don't know. I feel like I feel so fucking Trumper saying this, but I feel like they were afraid of the woke mob saying, well, why did the African-American queer female have to get killed You know what I
Right.
mean? And then they just kind of backtracked on it. And okay, if you want to do that, fine. It would have been great because it would have been echoes of Scream 2, like a lot of things in this film were.
Yeah.
But you still need to kill somebody else. And as much as I loved Chad, right? He gets stabbed the fuck up by two Ghostfaces at the same goddamn time. And I don't care how much you
Yeah,
weight
how
lift or
is
how
he
many
al-
protein bars you eat. I don't know how the fuck you live through that.
Yeah.
That was heartbreaking. That was like Dewey dying all over again. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what should have happened.
Right.
But then they don't have a male guy going forward. Although, well, we'll talk about this in a minute. But they would have actually had another male character survive to go forward. But I don't know. Yeah, there's the if there's no danger in a horror movie, I stop caring. You know what I mean? Like then it's not a horror movie anymore. Then it's just a straight up mystery movie that is just, oh, come back next week for the next episode, kid. Stay
Right.
same time.
Well, and even then, all the tension and the mystery really gets flattened when nobody's like dying. And main characters like kind of need to die if you want to have that tension.
Yeah.
You can't just have like random ass people die. Like at least a main character. And there were a lot of main characters who would have been perfectly good candidates in this movie.
Sure.
None of them fucking died. Like, not even. I thought Gail died, and then Gail didn't die. And I'm like, well, so nobody's dead. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, there were so many reasons. Like, we wanted to, but. And then they, because I watched all like the interviews and stuff after the fact, and they were like spoiler interviews, but they were like, "Oh, we killed Dewey, so we figured we can't kill Gale in this," and it was like, well, okay, then you need to kill somebody else or multiple people because whatever. And I get it. You don't want to kill the main character Sam because she's the main character. It would have been a nice surprise to watch it go that direction. You don't want to kill Jenna Ortega because she's got a giant following. It's like ever since the Wednesday thing, she blew the fuck up. So you're not going to kill her because there's money and a built-in audience. Like, that's just bad financial decision. You don't want to kill Mindy because you may be afraid of the woke mob. I don't know. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that was the impression that I got. Mm-hmm. You don't want to kill Chad because it's kind of like killing Dewey for a second time, like in the very second movie. So right then and there, and then you can't kill Gale because once again, it's like killing Dewey. You can't do that. So you have to, that's the thing about, and I say this as a writer of horror films, you have to be a little cold-hearted when you write when you make a horror story. Like, and the what you said before actually is a very important thing. They're all very likable actors playing likable characters.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing when we get upset that they die.
Yeah.
Because that makes us hate the killers more. Like, that's their purpose of dying, is to make us feel something. So
they didn't even kill Sam's secret boyfriend. Like, that would have
been something. Which is what I wanted to get into.
There's so many things where it's like, just pick one, goddammit.
So here's the thing. The new characters that were added to this, there was 3, 4. One of them survived, one of them died, and the other 2 were killers.
Yeah.
So, in the next movie, when everybody comes back, that herd of characters, and there's like 3 new characters, we're like going to be like, all right, it's one of these 2. Like,
yeah.
It's going to be... the suspect list is going to get narrowed down quite a bit, which is actually why we're going to get to this at the end, but I want you to at least start the wheels turning on it. But I'm very curious to know if you can come up with an idea for who killers should be in 7 if they do another one, which I'm sure they will. But we'll get to that at the very end because I have a theory and a really good fucking idea in my opinion, but let's not get there. Let's actually go back to the beginning because the opening of this movie was very interesting. I will say at the very least. The opening kill is always one of those things in a Scream movie that you look forward to because after the first movie, they just continuously upped the ante on the opening sequences. Unless you're counting 4. 4's opening sequence is gimmicky and stupid, but the rest of the time, different story. in the first film, you kill off Drew Barrymore, which everybody thought when the movie came out. I don't know when I say everybody, this is what everybody says. That Drew Barrymore was going to be the lead.
Right.
You know, go to the end of the movie. And then when she dies, you're surprised and shocked. I was a kid. I really didn't understand who Drew Barrymore was at the time or like what her name meant. So to me, that was lost on me from the beginning. The second movie, a crowded movie theater, 2 people get offed, is arguably the best opening sequence in the franchise, if you ask me, in terms of execution and a gimmick. The third movie is interesting in the fact that they kill off a returning character right off the bat. So I give them credit there. The fourth movie, they have several of the Stab movie openings playing instead of it actually being the movie, and you never actually understand when it's going to be the actual Scream movie and not a Stab movie. To me, that was just shitty, and it was a terrible opening sequence altogether because it was hacked in the edit room by the fucking Weinsteins and the MPAA, but that's another podcast. The fifth movie, the opening girl, Jenna Ortega, survives, which is a new thing. Like, we don't expect that, especially when you're doing like a remake, reboot type situation. So that was kind of I don't want to call it a gimmick, but it was the surprise for that particular film. So this movie was very interesting because they have a classic, very easy kill. It's basic Scream opening just in New York. You know what I mean? Like, it's very modern, like a Tinder catfish type deal. And the twist is the killer lifts up their mask within like the first 30 seconds of a murder. And that's like something that I expected much more audible gasps from the audience, and there really wasn't any, which kind of shocks me. But
no, that was a surprise, because it is like, okay, where are we going with this? Because for a while I was like, how long are we going to follow this character? Like, because we followed him for a while.
I was very interested when he passed by Tara on his way home or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, are we going to get to know who the killer is the entire movie and kind of watch how they do it? And I thought that was really fun, and I was kind of excited to see that. And then they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us, which was fine, but that little taste of it was enough for me to be like, oh, they're thinking a little bit outside the box here. And then he gets murdered by another ghost face who he doesn't know, because him and his roommate were going to finish the movie that the killers in the previous movie were trying to inspire, which I thought was interesting upon repeat viewings, because that plays into the actual ending of the movie and the killer's motives. And it leads us to a great opening line of "Who gives a fuck about movies?" Because that's when I sat up in my seat for watching this movie, because I was like, wait a minute, there's a ghost face and he doesn't give a shit about movies? This is new. This is different. This is interesting. So right off the bat, I was into it. And then we go to the party, I think it was. No, we go to therapy session. And Samantha Carpenter is having a therapy session with the guy from Mission Impossible. And she doesn't tell him why she's there for 6 months, I guess. And then finally gets around to it. And then he like freaks out and says he's reporting her for the cops. And she's like, I didn't say I was going to do anything. Like, starts freaking out. She leaves. She goes home. She finds her sex positive. I almost said slutty. Sex positive roommate, Quinn, who is banging some dude. And every time I watch this movie, when she says something, I think she talks about Chad or something like that, and you're here in the other room, the guy's like, who the fuck is Chad? Yeah. Like, that got a laugh from me every time, and every audience that I saw it with. That was a really great moment.
It is funny.
So then Sam goes to the party, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Mindy's there with her girlfriend. Chad is there with his roommate, who's kind of a nothing burger, I would call this character. And we'll talk more about that as we go on. But
I totally forgot about him, quite frankly.
He's a total nothing burger. There's no character. And I don't know if that's an editing thing or just poor writing or what. But it was just, he was a complete nothing burger of a character. And then, side note, we need to talk about this because it was in the party scene when he's shirtless and wearing a cowboy hat and stuff that I realized, and I pulled out my phone to check, that Mason Gooding is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son.
Oh, I had no idea.
I had no idea either, but I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, he's kind of like Cuba Gooding Jr. And then I thought about his actor now. Oh, he's Mason Gooding. IMDb. Holy shit. Like, it actually is. Yeah, so then there's some creepy guy hitting on a drunk Tara. And then we get into probably one of the more interesting scenes in the movie when they're on their way home. And Tara and her sister Sam get into an argument. And it was the first time I kind of felt something for Sam. Like, I felt sympathy for her. Like you talked about in the fifth movie, she really wasn't entirely interesting. She was kind of like not a bore, but like a Debbie Downer. Like, everything, she was just complaining, and she was, poor me constantly. And it was not a way to create an endearing character. So immediately they kind of changed it around where not only did they establish that she's got this problem with her sister, like she's trying to deal with everything that happened and help her sister and protect her sister, but also the fucking world is against her. Like, they're throwing Slurpees on her and shit. Excuse me, Diet Cherry Coke, which is a plot point. Not really a plot point, but it's just a fucking thing that they make sure they point out. I don't know if is that considered product placement, maybe?
A little bit.
A little bit?
It's not,
maybe.
It's not overt, but yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of it's a product tag.
So, no, you get a whole bunch of things all at once to kind of make you feel bad for her, and you're on her side. So they did a much better job, in my opinion, in this first act of kind of not rebooting.
But Sam's super relatable in this movie, I feel like. And I definitely like you were saying, I definitely get behind her as a character much more in this one because I feel invested. Because in the first one, I feel more invested really with like Tara, because that's really what in the first one the relationship's more about, can Sam keep Tara alive, and that's like her her mentality is, and you can kind of relate to it, but it's really more about like, oh well, I hope that Tara doesn't die, basically. And in this one, it is more like, because she kind of has for me, it's like the same thing that I found so relatable about Sydney in later movies is like how the trauma of preceding movies has affected her over the course of that time. Yeah, and that's a super, super, super relatable thing that they worked in for her.
And the thing about Sydney in those movies is she's very much kind of like, she has her friend group and all that stuff, but it's always mainly about her dealing with her own issues. Yeah. And in this, it was a little bit different. It was about an older sister trying to take care of her younger sister and kind of the kids that she babysat too, right? Because like Mindy and Chad and like those kids they're important to her in that aspect. So it's kind of like she's a motherly figure, which is very interesting. But she's also trying to work out her shit. So it's kind of like next level Sydney, which I really liked. I felt like that was, quote unquote, a modern interpretation of a Sydney character where it's like, okay, you don't just have this one problem, like your trauma. Like, you have everybody's trauma that you're carrying on your back, and people are throwing shit at you while you're just trying to do the right thing. And they like, you know what I mean? Like, it felt very real and very modern. And I really loved how they reapproached that character. Reintroduced is probably the best way to say it, where immediately you don't even have to like see the other movie. I feel like if I had not seen 5 and I saw 6, I would still be on her side. Like, I would be very interested in seeing her take care of her friends and her little sister. So after we do all of that, what the fuck happens next? Quinn's dad is introduced, who is Detective Bailey, the police officer, which I don't know if we were expected to think of him as the new Dewey, because I didn't. I didn't either. I thought of Chad as the new Dewey. You know what I mean? Like, that's the vibe that I got. And Tara's playing kind of the new Gale. Sam is the new Sydney, and Mindy is obviously the new Randy. Like, that, the core 4 are those characters. They're basically just those characters. So we get introduced to Quinn's father, which is Sam and Tara's roommate. And he's investigating the crime scene, and apparently the crime scene of the opening kills, the fake killer and the fake killer's first victim or only victim. I don't know if that was his first victim. He talked about blue balls, but I couldn't really tell if he had killed somebody before or not. It was really kind of hard to decipher, and I've seen the movie like 4+ times. But anyway, they left Sam's driver's license at the scene of the crime, and so he needs her to come down to the station and so he can interrogate her or whatever. So she leaves, and her little sister argues with her, and she's like, I'm coming with you, blah, blah, blah. Then they get a phone call from Richie, but not Richie, just Richie's phone number, which, upon repeat viewings, you realize, oh, that works. No, that actually could happen. I could see how that could happen. And it's the killer, and they're threatening them, and then he jumps out of a bush. There's no other way to describe it. The killer jumps out of a bush and tries attacking them, and then shit gets really serious. So this is going to be one of the aspects that we're really going to talk about here. And we kind of forgot about it in the opening, which it really does get important in that particular scene. But he chases them into a bodega, and then he starts murdering customers right in front of everybody. And like everybody runs for it, and it's kind of this like hide and seek game in the actual bodega, which is a small one way in, one way out grocery store. He's much more brutal this time. Brutal is the word. Like very, very, very mean when it comes to how he kills people and all that. And very much so, the fake killer that gets killed in the opening sequence, when you see his guts starting to like pierce out of the wounds and stuff like that when he's up against the fridge, it's like, ooh, this is a lot gorier than I'm used to. Usually it's just like blood splurting and throat slit, but that's about as far as it goes in a Scream movie. But there's gunshots and stabbings and all kinds of crazy shit going on. Fortunately, they push over one of the aisles onto him, and then they run out.
Yeah, so that's a good like a really tense scene too. Like I like the way that they did that scene when Sam and Tara are trying to like move past him without making him aware, or making the killer aware, of where they are.
Throwing the can that had fallen over to the thing or whatever. It was very Jurassic Parky. It felt like the end of Jurassic Park. But that's fine. I probably would have made that kind of a reference too if I was doing a Scream movie and I saw the opportunity arise. So they go out, and then they get interviewed by Detective Bailey, and they find out that the killer is leaving masks behind, and they used to masks that were previously owned by previous Ghostface killers. And that's when we get introduced to Kirby, who is from Scream 4. And if you ask me, the only good fucking thing about Scream 4. And she is now an FBI agent, which is very interesting. And her and Bailey start going over the evidence about the stuff. And, one of the things that I did want to talk about, I'm so happy that they pointed out that Stu was dead in the evidence scene where they were like, died 1996. And they hold on that fucking shot unbelievably long, so there's no mistaking that it's there. And then after they do that, I think I got things out of order here, but regardless, after that, Sydney and Tara go out of the police station, and who do you know? It's there, good old Gale Weathers, and they get into a fight because Gale wrote a book, even though she said she wasn't going to write a book. Now, I do want to talk about this with you. Is it shameful that they reneged on this character growth that Gale seemingly had in 5, where she was not going to write a book, and it was very much the news, the modern news stance where it's like, oh, there's a gunman that just shot up a school or something like that. We're not telling you their name. We're not showing their picture. We're not giving them any celebrity whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And then they do. Like 3 weeks later, they talk about this person, blah, blah, blah. And then you get the exact same situation with Gale. But this is a character that we have grown to love over the series of 5 movies. And there's nowhere for her to go if she's just gonna keep resetting her character every
Yeah.
single time.
Right. That was
So
one of the reasons why I was like, I had assumed like, okay, well, she's going to be the character who dies in this movie because it's
because she
like,
doesn't grow,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. That's
that
what I
seems really
thought too.
obvious to me. Yeah,
And they didn't. And that's what I kind of was upset about, was because if you are like, I'm not creative from a creative standpoint, I'm okay with them making that decision that Gale is just going to go back to being Gale. But I don't know if it's like the morality part of me or whatever, but in movies it's supposed to play a factor in terms of, people's destiny or characters' destinies, where it's like you create your own ruin. You know what I mean? And like if
yeah,
they had worked it in a way where Gale doing that ended up being the cause of her demise, it adds a little, morality lesson to it. But no, it's just Gale. That's what she does, and she'll keep on doing it. Like it just ended up meaning nothing.
yeah. It does. I mean, it does like,
It
shallow
devalues
her
Five a
character.
little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
yeah. It shallows her character a lot, and also kind of like, because it's like, okay, basically the trade that they do in this movie is like, okay, well, we're not gonna get Sydney, but you'll get Gale, and it's like,
Right.
okay, well, but can we at least make Gale a more
Yeah.
likable character?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that to me, yeah, that was an odd decision on their part, and I get like they need to have kind of comedic relief in that sense, and Gale provides that to some extent.
She also furthers the plot like nobody else because, oh, I found this because I'm good at my job. What?
Yeah, yeah, no, that part, that part's a little, that part's a little random. I feel like
Yes.
the whole evidence chamber thing was kind of a big. It was kind of hard for me to swallow.
It's
It's
a
also,
great set piece, but it was terribly worked in.
yeah, it's also like the slowest part of the movie is when they're just
Hanging
like,
out.
yeah, and I'm just like, where are we going? What are we doing?
Well,
Like,
we'll get to there in a minute. I don't want to get ahead
yeah,
of ourselves, but
yeah.
they get into a fight with Gale, and then what do they do next? I don't really remember. Is it just they're all together at the party? Do you remember what happens next? I think it's just them at the
I
party or
think that's
whatever,
when they
right?
go. I think that's when they go back to the. Is that where they go back to the apartment, and then you get a little bit of like
The new
they
boyfriend.
develop the, yeah, the whole thing with the new boyfriend.
Well, we haven't talked about that. We may have skipped over it in chronological order, so we can go over it a little bit. But there's a new boy across the not across the hall, but like I guess in the same apartment building, but in a different wing or something. I don't know.
Right.
They can see in his window, and he's shirtless and he's muscular, and it's the female gaze is well represented, I guess. And they all keep telling Sam that she should go ask him out, and she says no, and then you find out that she's secretly dating him anyway. This was confusing to me because I don't understand why she would hide that from people. Is she trying to like embellish her trauma or something with everyone? Like it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I don't. When I was watching the movie, it made a little sense to me, but I can't remember why it made sense to me now. It's just kind of like, I don't think it's to embellish her trauma so much as it's like almost a guilt thing, I think.
Okay.
That's how I read it. It's like she feels like she's so responsible for taking care of her sister that if her sister knew she's like dating some guy or whatever, she would, like, Sam would feel guilty about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Sam
Like,
thinks that Tara would think she was like neglecting her or something
because
like
that's
that. Okay.
part of the I think part of the thing in Sam's psychology is like, oh yeah, Tara says that she doesn't want me to help take care of her, but really she does, and of course Tara doesn't. But like Sam has this responsibility complex that's like really built into her.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. I don't know how else to read it, or maybe that literally is her kink, you know, like that's kind of what gets her off. So I don't know.
I don't know. Either way, we can talk about Danny for a quick second, which is the name of the character. Um, he looks like a killer.
Yeah.
He's got a very hard, edgy kind of look to him.
Yeah.
But the props to the actor because he plays him just like a cuddly bear. Like he's just like a fun dude. Like he's just very cool and easygoing. I gotta tell you, I don't think it's supposed to be funny. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is supposed to be funny. But the next scene that I can think about anyway that we're gonna talk about is when Quinn gets killed and Danny watches through the window. When Danny notices Ghostface and he goes, "Yo." Like, I just lose it every fucking time. It's just funny to me because he's kind of like a himbo in that moment. Like, you know what? Like, it's one of those things where he's just like, is he really that fucking dumb? And then he's like trying to get their their attention and all this, and then it leads to another very tense scene where Ghostface attacks them. He kills Quinn. He kills the random boyfriend or the random lover of the week of Quinn, who if you blink it, you'll miss it. The guy is dead in the bathtub. Yeah. Who for the longest time I kept thinking the guy in the bathtub was the same guy that Sam tased at the party.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
It wasn't. It's not. I confirmed it because I mentioned it on Twitter and someone disagreed with me. So the next time I went and saw it, I like eagle-eyed it and they were right. I was wrong. It wasn't him, but I thought it was, and I thought that was a brilliant move if it had been the guy she tased because so spoiler alert, not that we're not already there, but the killers are trying to frame Sam to being a killer. So if she had tased this guy in front of so many people, it would have made sense if they killed him and made it look in her apartment, and you know what I mean? Like that would add up to the stuff like that. So I thought that that's who he was half the time. Again, it was a blink and you miss it. And I thought he kind of looked like him the first time I saw it. And then my brain just forced it to be him the rest of the viewings until I was corrected. And then there's a very tense scene where Mindy, so Tara and Chad, I don't ever even recall them running out the front door, but they go out the front door and they leave their keys and they can't get back in. So they're stuck outside of the building. So they have to do this ladder thing. The rest of the people who are stuck in the building or in the apartment to get across to Danny's apartment, which is kind of weird. I don't know if they have ladders like that in New York City, but I bought it. You know, I'll just take it. And a very great scene of them all going over the ladder, and then finally Ghostface breaking into the room and knocking Mindy's girlfriend off of the ladder, and she hits her head pretty hard on a dumpster, and that's the end of her.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to the do you not kill Mindy argument, you have now just killed a queer female of color because she's not a white girl.
She seemed Asian to me.
Yeah, she was either Asian or Hispanic. I'm not entirely sure what her ethnicity is. Yeah. I apologize for being wrong because I know I am, but she's not white. It's just it's that very simple. So you have a 3-strike minority who just gets brutally murdered, and then you have to ask yourself, do you do that again with you know what I mean? So I can understand their hesitation to not kill Mindy because they killed off her girlfriend. So that could be a understandable argument that they could make because that you don't want to piss off. Because let's take a pause here for something that I don't know if I remember I talked about whether or not in our Giant Scream podcast, but I have been a Scream fan for a very long time, and I can tell you, much like my Hocus Pocus fandom, I am one of the very few straight guys in this this community of fans. The Scream fans has a lot of gay fans, mostly Brazilian gay men. I don't know why they're all Brazilian, but they all seem to be Brazilian.
Yeah.
And it's understandable given the fact that Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter and creator of all of this, really is a gay man. So I guess they might feel represented, and there's
A lot
a
of
whole.
it, a lot of it, I think, is the meta elements of it, because there
Yeah,
is like a certain amount of that in Scream movies.
there's a certain amount, not sarcasm, but like a mocking, like
Yeah.
jovial kind of thing. And then you also
Yeah.
have characters like Gale Weathers, who is like a gay icon for some reason. Tatum Riley, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character from Scream 2. What's the name of the chick from 3? I forget her name. Parker Posey. Parker
yeah.
Posey is like, I don't know if she's a lesbian, but she's like a gay cult hero as well. So, it's well ingrained throughout this franchise that there are a lot of either queer icons, queer characters, queer actors, queer creators.
I mean,
very...
Gale Weathers sounds like a drag icon name.
It does.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's very much a queen.
Yes. So, getting back to my point, if you're going to be murdering gay characters in these movies, you kind of got to pick your battle because you don't want to isolate your audience a lot. And again, I guess I'm the minority in this particular instance. So I guess I can give them that pass where it's like, okay, you did at least kill one of them. You weren't afraid to do that, but 2 might have been a little much. And it might have upset a lot of people. So I get it. It's a financial decision when you come down to it. Sometimes you got to put some of the finances before the story. So
this is something I think about a lot, is that Tara would have been thematically probably the most
expendable. Yes.
The most appropriate person to actually kill off.
Yeah.
Because then that would actually like really bring everything together within what's discussed in the movie, basically.
Absolutely. I agree. A scene that we forgot, which is very telling about how not important it is, but meaningless, I guess it would be, is the murder of Sam's psychiatrist.
Oh yeah, right.
Just kind of happens.
The only plot important part of it is that the Ghostface gets the documents. But
why? What does that end up doing?
I don't know.
He already reported her to the police because Bailey talks about it. So I don't know why that was important, other than the fact that the killer kills the psychiatrist who had told Sam they were going to do that. So it was framing Sam looking like they were trying to kill their psychiatrist before he could out them to the or her to the police.
I mean, never that setup's never paid off as far as I can figure. It's not really, doesn't really lead to much.
Same. So then after Quinn dies and Mindy's girlfriend dies, and and Quinn's flavor of the week dies. So 3 people in that fucking scene technically. We have Detective Bailey stumbling out in tears and very mad, and apparently they've kicked him off the case now because his daughter. Well, why the fuck wouldn't you? Because your daughter's dead.
Yeah. Right.
And then what the fuck is his name? Ethan, Mr. Nothing Burger shows back up, and everybody is on this motherfucker's case. Like, you are Ghostface. We know you are Ghostface.
Yeah.
You are fucking Ghostface. And it becomes a very Billy Loomis scenario where, like, well, I guess it's not him since they're all pointing the finger at him, so he can't be him. And they kind of shoo him away, but then not really, because immediately after is when Gale shows up, and she's like, I need to show you something. And everybody's like, okay. And then Kirby shows up, and Kirby's like, hi, Gale. And they have a little back and forth, which was fun. And then they go to, as we talked about, this old abandoned movie theater that has all kinds of evidence from previous killings.
Right.
Not movie memorabilia from the Stab movies, actual evidence from murders that have taken place. And the excuse for this is Gale is just quote unquote really good at her job. Not what's her name? Jesus, I forgot it already. The blonde. Kirby, not Kirby, the FBI agent who's been quote unquote tracking Ghostface murders for months. Uh, okay, she hasn't found this. Gail just happened to find this. And it's not even shown her finding this or how
Yeah.
she came about finding it. It's just throwaway dialogue to get us into the fucking theater.
Kirby felt a little shoehorned into this movie.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like, I mean, yeah, you should go on because there's a point in which she disappears, and I kind of even forget she's in the movie. I'm just like, okay,
So
whatever.
they walk into this fucking thing, this theater, and this is where I start having problems. Because up until now, I'm having a fun time with this movie.
Yeah.
And in theory, seeing all these little Easter eggs and callbacks and stuff like that and acknowledgments of past films is really fun for fans. Like, this must have been how people felt when they saw Rogue One.
Sure.
Because, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really get it. It felt kind of cringy to me when I saw those things in that movie. But to this, it was really exciting and fun. And maybe that's just my bias. But I'm watching this, and they're doing things. They're touching things. They're looking at things. They're just randomly talking about shit. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't this a fucking crime scene? Shouldn't this be locked down immediately? Shouldn't they be like, all right, everybody, get the fuck out. We need to fucking print all this. We need to get people in here. Da 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 da. No. Kirby and the guy who got kicked off the case don't do anything. Now, I get the guy getting kicked off the case for multiple reasons. Number one, he just got kicked off the case. He just wants to find the killer and kill it. Number two, spoiler alert, he's the fucking killer. So why is he going to be going and telling the police, we need to go there? But why the fuck isn't Kirby taking control of this, going, everybody out. This is my jurisdiction now. Goodbye.
This is around the point in the movie where I was like, well, maybe Kirby's the killer.
Which they want you to think.
Yeah. But they're not doing, I don't know, they just do a weird job of like that's a fine red herring to have, but like I don't know, the way it's done is just kind of, it just feels off kilter because it just feels like, it feels like they amble around in that theater for forever, and I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me why there's much time.
And Ethan, Mr. Ghostface, prime suspect of the group, is with them, and he just awkwardly, cringely, shoehorn lined in the middle of a fucking scene goes, why am I here? Like, we were all asking that question, because to be honest with you, I hadn't noticed he was even in the scene at that point. And then one of them was like, oh, so I can keep an eye on you. And I'm like, really? What the fuck? Like, this is terrible. Like, no.
Yeah.
He just, no. And then you have a very sweet moment between Kirby and Mindy, which is kind of fun. You have to do the Kirby meets Mindy moment where the two female Randys all of a sudden show up and they do their movie trivia off and all that kind of stuff, which I thought was fun. It was a good little bit of fan service, and it didn't take up too much time. And then Sam kind of wrestles with the whole Billy Loomis costume in front of her. Then, on repeat viewings, I start having more problems. Because we find out at the end of the movie that this is Richie's cult collection of things, right? Richie was the killer in the previous film. The main killer, I guess you could say. And there are drawings of all of the people, right, that are very clearly not evidence. They are just like fan sketches of them. And there are drawings of Dewey from 5 in 6 that would presumably have been done by Richie in the midst of everything that happened in 5. He was sketching, and then somehow that evidence found its way back into this warehouse.
Right. Yeah, because that's like in New York City, right? And
that's the opposite.
In the murders in the last
California,
one took place in
in a very short amount of time. So I don't know. I don't know how the fuck this happened. I don't know. And then there's a very, very, very good scene that is meant to point.
I'm gonna say I can think of a way that it would happen, but you have to really buy I mean, you have to really buy the ultimate reveal, right?
Okay. He sent them to his
Uh,
daddy.
yeah, basically you have to buy that they were like fully acknowledging like he was the killer at that time. If you get what I'm saying. Because if Richie is the in 5, right?
Right.
And he's like the son of fucking the
Bailey.
cop Bailey, right? So the only way you make sense of it is he did the drawing, he FedExed it to his dad. He was like, "Hey, can you put this in my memorabilia vault?" Like that's basically like the logistical thing. And his dad was like, "Okay, well, my son's a serial killer. That's great."
Or maybe he did it. He was sketching randomly or whatever, and then after he was the killer, they confiscated all of his items, found it, it went into evidence, and
Oh,
then
sure.
Bailey got it and put it there. Maybe you could do that, but either way, I guess it was very hard for me to swallow the fact that those were there and displayed and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I digress. We move on, and then there is a scene between Kirby and Tara that I absolutely fucking loved, which was it was kind of meant to subtly imply that Kirby was the killer yet again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was very Sydney, I'm a fighter from Scream 2, where it was like, I decided not to be a victim anymore. I decided that they should fear me, and I became the monster. Like, it was very empowering, and I very much liked that because in the first movie, Tara is just the stakes. She doesn't really have a lot of character. Like, she's just the stakes, as we talked about before. And then in this movie, a little whiny to get us started. Like she's a little bit of a brat, and it's not that endearing. But then when she has that kind of discussion with Kirby, and Kirby's like, "No, I took the power back, and I became a force for them to fear." And then Tara's kind of like, "Yeah, I like that," and like I'm gonna follow in those kinds of footsteps. I think that's the mentality I want to have. I really started getting back on her side. Like that was a really sweet moment for me. And I very much enjoyed it. And then we went from that moment to another very sweet moment, and it wells me up in my eyes when Sam is talking to Gail, and they're discussing her mother, and how their family kind of fell apart after the events of the last film. And Gail kind of talks about how you make your own family, and you find people who you can make a family with, and they start playing Dewey's theme underneath it.
Yeah.
Fucking breaks me every time. It should be illegal to play Dewey's music anymore. I don't think that should be allowed. I think that's unfair. I think that's hurtful. It's salt in the wound. But man, was that a great moment. And then they decide, okay, we're going to go on the offensive. And we're going to try and trap him. So they go into a park. There's a whole thing in the van where they're like, this is exactly how our fucking uncle got killed. Like, why are we doing this? And the movie starts falling apart even more for me, where the killer calls them and then he hangs up, and then you find out that the killer is in Gail's apartment on the other side of town. And this is when I start noticing things, especially on the repeat viewings, when Detective Bailey is chasing them before they steal his cop car. He's limping. He's kind of like crudgedly trying to catch up to them. Don't steal my cop car.
Right.
Ghostface up until this point has been very slick and brutal and very physical. Like he has been like a well in shape young man. And in the instances where he was that, it was highly unlikely that it was Mr. Nothingburger or Quinn, who are the other two killers, the kids of Detective Bailey. And I'm starting to think to myself, is he pulling a Yoda? Is that you know what I mean? Like he's faking that he's not that, physically able so that they won't suspect him or whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, that might work very well. Keep this in mind because it's going to come back into play in my arguments later. So then we have Gail's phone call, which was fucking great. The entire Gail scene was phenomenal. Gail and Ghostface on the phone. I love how Ghostface talks to Gail like it's the same Ghostface from the first fucking movie. We've never talked on the phone before. bitch, like, who knows who you are? Like, you run around in Woodsboro, go away. But it was still very fun, and Gale was very Gale. They slipped in a couple of meta moments where it's like, Sydney's the hero. What are you? The brains and the sex appeal. Like, you know, little things like that were fun, and it was really interesting to see Gale's character on the phone with Ghostface. So I very much enjoyed that. The actual chase scene dynamics and everything about it, well done.
Yeah.
Can you hold, please? What? Always gotta laugh in the theater, because in the history of Scream films, nobody has ever put Ghostface on hold. And it was about time that it finally happened. I was very happy with this scene. Were you, Rainwater? Did you like how that scene was executed?
Great. I mean, my thing was like that was the scene where I was like, okay, Gale's gonna get killed. Like I was like, okay, she's dying. And so that was I was surprised by how much they carried on like her ability to fight. And there were points where I was like, okay, well maybe she isn't gonna die. You know, like they really like push it as far as they can,
Sure.
so that you can maximize the tension out of that scene, and the way they do it, I was really impressed by. Like I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that scene a lot, for sure. Her poor boyfriend though.
Another nothing burger, big
Yeah,
beefy dude. And he got taken out by a 90-pound redhead girl. Like, I don't understand how that fucking happens, but okay. Okay, here's the thing. We know that it's Quinn that kills her boyfriend, right? This giant 6 foot something, 200+ pound dude. I buy the fact that Quinn jumps out from nowhere, puts her hand over his mouth, maybe slits his throat or stabs him, whatever like that, and kills him. I buy that, because I don't care how tall or short you are or whatever your gender is, it doesn't matter. If somebody has a knife and they catch you by surprise, you can get fucking killed. It's that simple. Yeah. Where I have a problem is the fact that Quinn picked him up and threw him through a fucking window in the middle of the living room like he was nothing. That just doesn't fucking happen.
I feel like it's a weird element in all of the Scream films where it's like somehow having the mask makes you just like
superhuman.
Super powered.
Yeah. And I get it. It's part of the fun of it, and you're not supposed to think about it that deep. But But if you ask me, when you have a movie like this, you want to be able to go rewatch it and find little clues. Like, I think that to me is the attention to detail that I want from these movies. And when you don't get it, it's a little defeating, and that's gonna get blown the fuck up as we enter the third act now. So we enter the third act, and they go to the warehouse, the theater, with all of the memorabilia. I forget fucking why. Did they?
I don't remember it either.
Oh no, that's right. There's a great scene at the hospital after that where Sam is like, I should just give myself up. I should let him kill me, and that'll be the end of it. And I love that scene. Yeah. That cemented Sam as a great character to me, because that's something I had always wondered if they were going to do with Sydney. If she was going to just say, I should just kill myself or let someone kill me or something like that, because then this will all be over and it'll be done and you guys will be safe, but that'll be it. And then her friends step up and like, no, we're not letting this happen to you. It's very, very, very inspiring moment. I was very happy to see that. And so then they say, let's try and trap him again.
Was that when they go into like that? Is that when they split up and end up going on the subway and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, but I'm trying to remember why they go back to the theater.
See, I don't remember why.
I think Kirby said, I set it up like a trap or something like that, but they just tried to do a trap in the park. So I don't know, it felt kind of repetitive, but either way, they go back to the fucking theater. I'm going to have to watch this movie again. Not that I'm not going to, but and so this is, I'm going to get into my overall feelings now. Like, we started the podcast with yours, but I'm going to say it right now before we even finish the breakdown. I loved this movie the first time I watched it, and I hate it more and more every single time I rewatch it. And this is why. The third act falls the fuck apart. And It's really, really bad. So they go back to the theater. I think Kirby said she would set it up as a trap or something like that. They kick the boyfriend out because they don't trust him, which I was a fan of. And I liked that he was cool about it. Like he was like, yeah, you should be doing that. That's
He's a
that's
keeper, Sam.
yeah, like that's well, and that's just that feels like a very real character. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times people say, "Oh, I don't see myself in characters and stuff like that." When I watch a character who's like, "No, I get it. You're right. This is the right thing to do." That's how I would fucking act if I was that dude.
Sure.
And
yeah.
she was like, "I can't have you here. I barely know you." And I'd be like, "You know what? You're right. I'm out. Where would you like me to go? You want me to go to the police station? Like my apartment? You tell me where to go. That's where I'm gonna fucking like. I will be the complete little bitch. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. I'm gonna do what you say so I can earn trust and whatever." So they go in and then they start really leaning on the Kirby is the crazy person here, and she's locked everybody in and she's running around as Ghostface and killing people. We have a sweet moment with not Mindy. Okay, so wait, before they get there, I'm sorry. They're going there and the train sequence happens. We can't not talk about the train sequence because they get split up by the New York City crowds. Now, first off, there's a very important thing to point out, and I have waited until this moment to bring it up because we are now entering the third act. We're on the cusp of or are just about to enter the third act. This entire fucking movie, from the opening scene to now, to the end credits, takes place during fucking Halloween.
Right.
I don't think I saw one fucking pumpkin the entire goddamn movie.
No, it's really not. Yeah, it's not mentioned at all. I mean, I don't know what Halloween is like in New York City, you know. But you would want to do that, right? You would want to.
Why wouldn't you
that.
lean into that?
Yeah.
And kind of add another dimension to this movie. The Halloween atmosphere is ripe for a Scream movie thing.
Yeah.
So they get split up, they go on the train, and everybody's in Halloween costumes except for our main characters. And there are several ghost faces, which they did set up. I will give credit where credit is due. Earlier in the movie where they were like, oh, this killing happened and they left a ghost face mask and now ghost face masks are selling out all across the city and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, I buy it. Like fucking kids and just the, like the mania of it all and like the hysteria and I bought that. So there are several ghost faces on the train at the time with werewolves and Freddy Kruegers and all kinds of little references to movies here and there, and it was very fun to see all that kind of stuff. I do think it would have been more fun if Ghostface had killed some other slasher icons. Like if Ghostface killed Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or something. I thought that would have been fun.
That was a missed opportunity. Yeah.
Absolutely was missed opportunity. Or for someone to have dressed as another horror movie slasher and been Ghostface and killed them. Or did like a like a cosplay mashup where they took like Michael Myers and Ghostface and made them into one, or you know what I mean? Like you could have had a lot of fun with that. So
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. You could have done them. You could have done the multiple masks gag.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Jason's mask and then Michael Myers mask.
Instead of like the former killers masks, absolutely. Yeah. Like you could have done that way. That would have been fun. There was a bunch of opportunities left on the table that I do kind of get upset about the fact that they did not use. But
yeah, I mean, it seems like that was an idea that somebody had last minute in like the Halloween aspect of it. Just really was never that big of a part. Maybe it was a big part in the script, but as they were going through it, they're like, well, we just can't put as much effort or time into this.
Well, otherwise you can't have Mindy get stabbed on a train by Ghostface in broad daylight, like. Unless everybody's in some kind of a costume. So otherwise it doesn't work. But see, that would have been the opportunity for you have 4 or 5 Ghostface on the train and the actual killer is not dressed as Ghostface. Like that would have been the nice twist about that particular sequence was, okay, which Ghostface is the one? Oh shit, it's the one dressed like Michael Myers. Like, and that would have been the nice twist where it's like, oh shit, like, like, I don't know. I think that would have been the right way to go. But whatever. I guess I'm just more creative than Radio Silence. I think they should hire me to do 7. Whatever. Anyway, so Mindy gets stabbed while Nothing Burger kind of watches, but not really, but kind of does. And you're like, I don't understand. Where is he during this? Okay, he couldn't have taken the clothes off that fast. He must not be the killer, but why is he staring like that? Like, I don't like, it was a very, is he not? I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah.
And I guess that was fair. That was relatively well done. And then you find out it was, in fact, his sister Quinn that was doing the stabbing later on. So then we get to the actual theater. Sam and them get there. They kick the boyfriend out. Kirby's there. They lock the doors like a shark cage or something, and there's no way in, which doesn't make any sense to me. It was like, there's no way in, so there's no way out, so it's just going to be us? Like, I don't understand what's happening here. And then they all go off to the left, and Kirby smiles and goes to the right. Ooh. Come on. Like, at that point, it became okay, so it's not Kirby. It was very clear in that point. So then we have a very tender moment between Chad and Tara. And then from fucking nowhere, Ghostface just pops the fuck up and starts stabbing him. And then I think he fights back a little bit. And then right when you think he's got the upper hand, he gets stabbed. And then it's revealed that the second Ghostface is there as well.
Yeah.
And they slaughter this fucking dude.
Yeah.
6 ways from Sunday.
Yeah. He should have been dead. It doesn't make any sense that he survives.
I wish I'd gone back and counted how many times he got stabbed, because it's ridiculous.
They must have originally planned to have him die.
Nope.
And then really?
I watched in one of the spoiler interviews with the directors, and they said the plan was always that it was a secret feel-good movie. So none of them were planned to die from the beginning.
You got to do a better job with fucking stabbing.
Well, that's where our problems start really beginning, because he should be dead. As much as I loved him, he should be dead. There's no way he should be alive.
It was like one step away from blowing his brains out, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It was just like, there's no way you survive that.
Right. And so he falls, and then Sam and Tara are chased by the Ghostface. And I don't think very much happens after that. They just kind of get stuck in one little situation with the two Ghostfaces, and then there's a showdown, and then Kirby comes and saves them, and the Ghostfaces run away, and then Bailey shows up, and he had called Sam earlier and said that Kirby was on a downward spiral ever since what happened in Scream 5, and that she's the killer. So it's the standoff between the two cops, and then one of the Ghostfaces runs up behind Bailey, and Kirby tries to warn him, and instead he takes the shot and he shoots Kirby, and the Ghostface stops right behind him, and he looks at him and goes, "Oh, good job." And then he turns to his other side and he goes, "The both of you." And the other one walks up, and then it's 3 killers. Correction, there's actually technically 5 killers in this movie, but we won't get into that just yet. You're looking at me funny, but you know this.
Yeah, I just can't remember.
The 2 in the beginning.
Oh, right.
The guy who gets killed, and then his roommate was his partner, but he was killed off screen, so we never really got to see him. But technically, there are 5 killers in this movie. So then there's this giant fucking monologue. Here's the thing. Every Scream movie has a giant monologue, right? It's the big motive. Here's my reason I want you to fucking know. Blah, 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 blah. This guy goes on for 20 minutes. The monologues in the past go on for like 5. You know what I mean? They keep it very fucking simple as to, here's why I did this, and this is why I want you. Like, and maybe it'll go 6 minutes if they decide to add a little cherry on top and go, well, I was going to turn on this motherfucker. This is what I really want. And that's kind of it. And then you get into the fuck you, and they fight, and it's the end of the movie. This goes on for 20 fucking minutes. And the entire time, Bailey is limping around, crotchety. The Yoda thing has gone out the window. It's not possible he's Yoda-ing this. He is just out of shape, not like a very limber young dude who can just do all the things that Ghostface has been doing. He reveals it's his son and his daughter, and they are the family of Richie, who was killed by Sam in the previous movie. And this was his shrine. And then they go into all of these fucking painstaking details to explain every possible plot hole that anyone could ever bitch about. Where they're just like, oh, I put this fucking warehouse or the theater in the name of those two schmucks we killed in the beginning, and it was there. The money traces back to them, and I did this, and these were his home movies, and he collected it, and I loved my son. Fucking what? Oh yeah, we juked the roommate lottery so that each of my kids was rooming with one of you. Oh, and by the way, my daughter didn't really die. I snuck in during the very first thing and swapped out the bodies, and like every conceivable thing that you could have just put together in your head. Like I guess they faked something now. They had to explain, and it felt very desperate. And all this time I'm watching this and I'm thinking, you guys could be making a fucking run for it during this. Like,
right.
Let's try and do something here. So then they do get to the fucking showdown part where they're kind of squaring off. And there's things going on. There are 3 killers. There's like Detective Bailey with his gun, and then there's 2 of his kids who each have a knife, right?
Yeah.
There are fights going on between Sam and Tara fighting the kids, and Bailey, who has a fucking gun, is kind of just not shown. Yeah. When he like these people, like they are literally at times stabbing his kids with knives that are in the theater, or that their own knives, or throwing TVs and shit like that at them, all this kind of stuff. Bailey has a fucking gun and doesn't do anything with it. He's not shown. He's not around. It's not like he's not stopping them. He's not protecting his kids. It's very, like when you watch it multiple times, you're like, well, Bailey's supposed to be standing right there. We just saw him in the shot before. Why isn't he shooting Sam? Like,
it's like a Dragon Ball Z fight.
Yeah, I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, but I'm assuming
that's kind of what they do in Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Like, why don't y'all team up? I'm like, no, we're just gonna let Goku fight. Oh, okay. Sure, whatever.
So it gets really fucking bad, and then there's fun little callbacks. The fuck you from Scream 3. Okay, so now we have to talk about what you brought up in the very beginning, which was people are getting stabbed left and right, walking it off like you get stabbed, and the audience goes, "Oh, he got her," and then. Not 30 seconds later, it's like that wound isn't even there, right? Like fucking Tara gets stabbed in the back at one point, and she's just, meh, I'm gonna keep on going. So okay, we're going back to where we all started with this, with your complaint that people are getting stabbed and walking it off like it's no fucking problem. So Tara gets stabbed in the back at one point, doesn't fucking matter. Sam is getting cut like on her arm, or like her, I think under her arm, maybe even like on like her torso. Doesn't fucking matter. Like all of these things are not happening. Fucking at one point, Mr. Nothing Burger Kid gets stabbed down his throat with a very big one-liner, like "Die a fucking virgin" or something like that by Tara.
Yeah.
And it's very like that's a fucking kill shot right there. Like you're getting stabbed like that. And then he comes back not 5 minutes later, and he's screaming and running at them, and Kirby throws a TV at his head, which was fine for the whole stew in joke thing that they got going on. But it literally doesn't matter. So then they kill all the killers, and I want to talk one more thing about that before we get to the very end. Of the 3 killers, who did you like the most?
I actually thought that that the younger brother, was his name Ethan?
Yeah.
Was the most interesting one, because he is like, he's the one where I'm like, yeah, he probably is the killer.
So you thought Ethan was the most interesting.
Yeah, because I felt like, I mean, I have to say, like, both of the siblings, like, Quinn was the one I did not expect at all, you
Well,
know?
right, you can't. Like, they very
Yeah.
much cheated that one, but
Uh, but Ethan was the one that I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I think because they played so much, or they played around them so much where it's like, oh, maybe it's like a false flag kind of thing where it's like, he would typically be a killer in previous movies. So it's like, it probably isn't. And then when you figure out like all the things that are going on, you're like, oh, okay. Like, I think just from I guess he's interesting to me from a logical standpoint. As a character, Quinn was probably the most interesting to me.
same. I to be honest with you, I felt her emotion as the most authentic in the third act.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
Bailey felt a little forced. I don't think Dermot Mulroney was really doing that well of an acting job. I think he's a fine actor in general, but in this particular thing, it very much came off as mustache twirling to me.
Yeah.
But
It's a hard sell.
yeah.
For sure.
And they were trying to do a Mrs. Loomis thing a la Scream 2, which I get, and I appreciate that attempt for the homage to that, but it just didn't work for me on for him. But when Quinn was like screaming at her, she's like, "You killed our brother, you motherfucker!" Like, I felt it. Like, it felt like she was legitimately angry. Because here's the thing: the brother and the dad are hamming it up most of the time with the kind of goofy, "we're psycho" kind of thing. She felt angry. You know what I mean? Which was the motive. You were supposed to be having revenge for her killing your sibling, your son. And she was the only one that gave that thing. Now, she did feel a little sinister at a couple points where she was like, "Hey, room," like, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. But she's the only one that really felt anger. You know what I mean? Sadness is one thing. Sadness doesn't make you kill people. Anger could make you kill people. So
definitely felt legitimate with her for sure.
Yeah. So I really, really wanted to take a moment to applaud that actress because I think she did the best job out of the three killers. I think she was the standout, and I hope in the years to come and all the fandom and stuff like that that she is the one that finds some kind of a cult worship out of episode 6. So I just wanted to make sure we tackled that before we moved on. So now Sam finally dresses as Ghostface, and she stabs the shit out of Bailey, which in a sequence that just did not work, where he's surrounded by the mannequins of Ghostface, but none of them are wearing any of the masks, so it's not like she's hiding in the mannequin. Like, it's just not, it doesn't make sense. Like, I could see where if they were wearing the masks, it would be like, okay, one of these is not a mannequin, and it's, you know what I mean? Like, but they're all very clearly mannequins. And then Sam just comes out of nowhere from behind him and kills him. And then her and Tara have this moment where it's like, "Oh, do we not kill you?" And then, "No, okay, we kill you." And it just felt very to me. I don't know. I didn't really care for it. When Sam killed Quinn, the girl, the sister, the daughter, fucking Bailey is right behind him or her, right? So Sam shoots Quinn. Quinn falls down dead. She gets it right in the head. Falls down dead. Sam clearly has a gun in this moment. Bailey clearly has a gun in this moment. Instead of shooting at each other,
I know what you're saying.
they run at each other and tackle each other and fall over the balcony together.
Yeah, it was so nonsensical.
What?
Yeah. It was such a weird scene. It didn't make any sense at all.
No, it didn't. It didn't make any sense at all. So then, in the midst of this, at one point, I think Mr. Nothingburger stabbed Kirby with the knife from 4 that she got stabbed with. And Sam takes it and says, "I'm sorry, I need this," pulls it out of her, and Kirby's laying there in pain, and she's like, "I'll come back for you." All of this shit happens, they kill the killers, whatever. Sam and Tara walk out of on the little stage, both having gone through this traumatic experience, stabbed, falls, like high falls, punches, all this kind of shit. Yeah. And they sit down and they have a heart-to-heart. There's no physical ailments going on. No wincing. No, like, holding wounds. I don't care if you survive the fact that you got stabbed or cut or whatever like that, but you need to act like you are in fucking pain in this moment still. Now, granted, this sequence probably took 2 or 3 weeks to shoot, right? The entirety of this. But the directors, the script supervisor, all of the above fucking failed at making sure that these actresses were playing the moment, right? And it just... Kirby, in theory, should be laying 5 feet from them, bleeding the fuck out while they're having this heart-to-heart about sisterhood. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe do this after you call for an ambulance for Kirby. Like, right. But then Kirby pops back up and throws the TV at what's-his-face when he comes back for the one last scare thing. And she pops a one-liner, and then they go to outside of the thing, and they're fine. You know, I got my arm in a sling, and we're good. And then Chad gets rolled out. Hey, I'm good. And everyone in the theater, everyone who fucking loved him, everyone that loved the movie, everyone goes, are you fucking kidding me? Like, me and you have been saying it this whole podcast, but everyone in the theater is also going, really? 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 And it just doesn't sell. And then they talk about Mindy. Mindy just pops back up and goes, they gave me a bunch of painkillers and now I'm fucking fine. Like, what? Yeah. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then she climbs into the fucking ambulance and it drives off, and Sam holds the mask in her hands, and Tara's like, what are you doing? Nothing. Drops it on the floor, and then they just walk away, and it's happily ever after. Credits. Now, before we get into the last thoughts, then they come to the after credits scene. I don't mind the content of what it was, right? Because everybody... Did you stay for the after credits scene?
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the after credits scene.
Okay.
Because I sat there. I feel like I sat there to see if something was going to happen, but I don't remember what happened at all.
You might remember when I tell you, but the credits roll, the end of the thing, whatever, and then it cuts back to Mindy in the park when she was originally explaining the rules for a franchise, and she goes, not every movie has to have an end credit scene. And then it just cuts. It's literally like a 2-second clip that happens. It feels like it was almost like a deleted scene type moment.
Yeah.
From the actual
I don't
monologue.
remember that for some reason. Yeah.
While I appreciate that content, like that idea that not every movie needs an end credit scene, having it be from that particular scene in the movie is what bothered me about it, because I think it could have very well have justified Mindy coming back, or even just going to a hospital or whatever and getting Chad rolled up next to her or whatever, and him going like, well, if this is a franchise and it's over, what would happen in the end credit scene? And then she should just look at him from the gurney next to him and go, not every movie needs an end credit scene. Cut. And you would have just worked better for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it wouldn't have felt so tacked on. It would have felt much more like an authentic moment from a Scream movie being meta. And they just didn't do it. And that was Scream 6. So, yeah, I loved this movie the first 2/3 when I first saw it. The third act, the first time I saw it, I was like, that is heavily fucking flawed, but whatever, I had fun, I'll forgive it.
Yeah.
Every subsequent viewing, I grow more and more frustrated as more and more questions pop up throughout the movie where I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That shouldn't happen. Why are they doing this? No, what? No? What, like, and here's the thing. That sounds very nitpicky and nerdish, like super, like Reddit level nerd type shit. I have never done that for another Scream movie. Not even 4. Sure. I have watched 4 like multiple times, and I hate that movie. But that movie holds up when you watch it and you go, okay, well, so-and-so did this. That makes sense why that happened here. Blah, blah. Like, nothing felt pointless or just poorly directed or anything like, you know what I mean? Like, it all worked. I didn't necessarily like it, but it all worked. And this movie just has flaws, top to fucking bottom. Its only saving grace is that we like the characters and that overall it's kind of fun. But when you look at the plot, and that I would argue that yeah, characters are one of the most important things, if not the most important thing about any story. But in a fucking murder mystery where you are taking liberties, each Scream movie takes liberties with red herrings and trying to throw people off with stuff like that. You still have to hold up to subsequent rewatches. You have to be fair to your audience. Now, there are things you can keep from your audience, right? And that's how you gain that edge as a storyteller to keep the mystery and all that, not let your audience figure it out and be bored and not care about your movie. That's fair. But when you go back and you watch it, there cannot be holes that just are left and right, left and right, left and right, and just these nagging questions that don't make any kind of sense. And it fell drastically in my rankings of the franchise the more I watch it. So I liked it in terms of I enjoyed it. It was a fun time at the movies. I liked that they made Sam a better character. I liked the core four. I want to see more of these characters. I want to see another Scream movie. Some of the sequences were nerve-wracking and very thrilling, and it was very, very well done at times. But there are major flaws in between all of those things. So it kind of evens out at the end for me. I wouldn't put it at the top of my list, but I wouldn't put it at the bottom either. It would be somewhere in the middle of my rankings.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, the first two are so strong, like those are the two that stick out the most to me. And then 5 sticks out a lot for me, and 6, like those that I just listed, those are the ones that I remember the most. Like 3 kind of gets fuzzy. 4, I'm just like, because like when Kirby came into 6, I was like, wait, who's that? Like, and she's the best part of 4. So like, it took me a while to be like, oh, that character. Like it didn't occur to me at all for the longest time because they were clearly trying to make a big point about, oh, she's in this movie. I'm like, wait, who's that character? But also, like, I'm not as deeply into Scream as other people who are watching these movies. So, like, for me, so far I've only seen all the movies once. So, like, okay. I'm coming at 6 with a really fresh,
from a really general audience's perspective. That's fair.
Yeah, and for me, like, I know you were saying that you were really dissatisfied with how. The last scene with Sam and Bailey just didn't really work for you. I love that scene because I love how they're building that stuff up for her, where it's like, okay, what's gonna happen with Sam? Like that to me is kind of an interesting plot twist within the Scream franchise because they clearly want to do something with it. You know what I mean?
That kind of leaves me to my wrap-up segment, which is, what would you do if you were in charge of making Scream 7?
I mean...
Because when I first watched this, I thought to myself, I don't know where you fucking go from here.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to make it the last one in the franchise, right? Set it from Sam's perspective, and she just goes psycho killer. Like, that would be a total, like, switch, right? It would be a total shift in terms of where we've gone. I don't know how you would make that work necessarily as a movie.
You would definitely have to bring back Sidney. You'd have to bring back Nev Campbell, which we have not discussed at all during this, with the fact that the absence of Sidney, which they cover in the script, the story. They say Sidney called, but she's staying out of this. Like, it's not her story anymore, and she's got a family to think about. And to be honest with you, it didn't need Sidney. And I know they had Sidney in early drafts, and honestly, I don't think it would have been necessary.
Yeah. The other way of going about it too is like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that can kind of open up where maybe you totally turn the whole thing on its head, and it's just like Sam versus a bunch of other like fucking ghost faces or whatever, something like that, where it's more centered on her and there's less of the core 4 aspect to it. I don't know. I mean, it's like it's very open as to what you could do with it, and I don't know if they have a plan necessarily, but it certainly seems like they're trying to make it look like they have a plan of what they want to do with Sam.
It's possible. See, now this is what I would do. First off, I think that the general consensus from everybody, whether it be super fans or general audiences or whatnot, it needs to stop. There needs to be an end to the Scream movies.
Yeah.
It needs to stop. As much as we enjoyed the last two, right? And even though I have my flaws with this one, I still enjoy it. I'm gonna watch it a lot. I know that already. We need to stop.
Yeah.
It just needs, and I think that is the story that you need to tell. Is somebody, and this comes into another thing that I have an issue with this movie. There are more survivors in this movie than there ever have been in a Scream fucking movie before. The core four, Gale, the new boyfriend, like there are so many new characters.
Like here's an idea: you could have Sam kind of lose it and be like, and she starts like, okay, well, actually, this person could be the killer because the next killer because they have this connection with Sydney or whatever. You know,
like she's a paranoid person or something.
Yeah, like she's becoming super proactive and doing like Minority Report style, like killing people, right? Like that would be an interesting kind of twist where
possibly
you're like, okay, I could see why she's doing this,
right?
Why
but she's the killer.
Yeah, exactly. She's the killer, exactly.
This is what I would do. Well, number one, I would be fucking massacring all of the returning characters, right? Mm-hmm. And there would be bodies dropping left and right, like fucking Jenna Ortega, done. Mindy, done. Chad, done. New boyfriend, maybe. Probably not. And this is why. I think that for the first time in a Scream movie, a returning survivor should be one of the killers. Because that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that would be an interesting thing. To finally have that, because we have this assumption when we watch a Scream movie, oh, well, they're a returning survivor from the last movie. They're at stake. We never suspect those characters. When we watch this movie, I never for once thought, it's not Tara, it's not Chad, it's not Mindy. Like, I knew it wasn't them. It could not be them because they were a surviving, returning character. Yeah. So, I think, number one character needs to be, or one killer needs to be a surviving character from the previous films. Now, I don't think it should be Sydney. Absolutely not. I don't think it should be Sam. I don't. I think she should still be a kind of Sydney vessel or whatever, where it's like you're grappling with the sins of your parent. Speaking of which, I actually think that the other killer should be Sam's mother, who we have yet to meet.
That's true.
And has been an off-screen character referenced, who has a lot of substance abuse problems, is probably unstable. And the motive, I don't know what the boyfriend, or like, because I think Danny should be the returning character. I think he should be the killer, the accomplice killer. But I think the primary killer should be, what's it called? Sam's mother, right? And kind of like how in Scream 2, remember how Debbie Loomis was kept away from Sydney the entire movie by just having her play off a Gale? I think you do something like that where and that's another gripe with 6, was the fact that they never separated the group really, other than when Gale left. And that doesn't allow you to kind of play with different scenarios. The group was always tight-knit the entire fucking time, which kind of, I mean, the dynamics got to bounce off each other a lot, which was great for character development, but for story and like red herrings and all that kind of stuff, it hurts it. But I think it should be Mama Carpenter, and she's killing all of these people and possibly even her own children, because she's gone fucking crazy from the guilt that if she had not cheated with Billy, this would not be happening. And to tie it into how the fans feel about the entire franchise, it all needs to end, and the only way to end it is everybody dies. I am going to kill everybody. I'm going to kill all your friends. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill Sydney. This is all going to end, and I'm going to put a stop to it. I'm the reason, if I had slept with Billy and had you, then this wouldn't be happening. It would all be over by now, and I just need to kill everybody, and it'll all be over, and everybody can go on, and that's how I'm being a good
That
person
makes
or
a lot
something
of
like that.
sense to me.
I think Mama Carpenter and one of the returning characters I prefer would be Danny, because I in one of the spoiler interviews they talked about the audition process, and the guy who played Danny, the new boyfriend, every person who auditioned for a role had to read a killer monologue as part of their audition, just to keep them on their toes and kind of see, blah blah blah. And they raved about how good of a killer monologue he could give, and I kind of want to see it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of coming from, but I think it needs to be somebody. I think it should not be Sydney or Sam. I think Sydney needs to come back. I think it should be Mama Carpenter as the killer, and I think a returning character who's a survivor should be the other killer. And I also think it should be a fucking slaughter fest.
Yeah.
Almost everybody should fucking die. And it should be like if this was a feel-good movie, this should fucking just be Reservoir Dogs by the end of it. That's a Scream 3 reference if nobody caught it. So that's my feelings on 6. In the end, I know it sounded like I kind of beat the shit out of it in this podcast, but overall, I did enjoy it. I will be rewatching it.
Apt criticisms, though. Like, some of those things that you pointed out when I was watching the movie, I was like, yeah, I'll let it slip because I'm enjoying myself.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But
I could definitely see that grinding on me after like multiple viewings for sure.
Yeah. So it's one of those movies where I would recommend it's a Michael Bay horror movie. Turn your brain off. And just watch and let it do its thing. But don't try to play along, which is kind of the sad part to say for a Scream movie. Don't play along. Like that's why we're here. That's we're here to play along. We want to try and figure out who the killer is. And if I'm watching it again, I want the movie to be better than me. I want the movie to be like, you didn't notice this, but now you do. Like those kinds of things are what I look for in a Scream movie. Absolutely. Or what I want in a Scream movie. And when you have the opposite of that, it completely kind of tanks the enjoyment of it. So I am still looking forward to 7. I love these characters. I love these actors. I think Radio Silence did a great job executing a lot of things, like sequence-wise, and then other things not so much. So it'll be interesting to see how they come back at it with 7. And the alternative, I wanted to throw this out there because I know it's not going to happen, but as another last-minute homage to Wes Craven, I also think it would be fun if the last movie was like a Wes Craven's New Nightmare type scenario for Scream, where it's like takes place at like a horror convention, and Neve Campbell is playing herself, and then you can bring back like Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy. Like you can bring back all of the original actors who are still alive and let them play themselves and being hunted by a psychotic fan. You could also have the new cast in there too. You know what I mean? Like it would actually be kind of fun. And I think that's kind of where that was kind of the audition that Craven kind of did. He didn't do it specifically for Scream, but it was so meta at the time for New Nightmare, the Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street thing, to have Freddy Krueger going after the actors that were in his movies. Like it's kind of fits the Scream mold. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's either that or Ghostface in space. Those are our 3 options, folks.
Yeah, where else can you go?
Ghostface in the hood. I don't know. Anyway, that's all my thoughts on Scream 6. Mr. Rainwater, if you have any things else out there that you want to throw out there about Scream,
no, that's
free.
it for me. Yeah, that was very thorough, I feel like.
Alrighty. So when Scream 7 comes out, we will once again do this, and hopefully that'll be the last time we do it. Other things, what? I think we are going to start talking about like more movie things, because it's either going to be that or AI stuff. I think that's what this podcast is going to devolve into: movie discussions and AI art. But there are interesting things at play as well. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I recently, for the first time, everybody else had probably watched it, but I watched it for the first time, the Tom Cruise Mummy movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that. What's up with that movie?
I didn't see it either. And to be honest with you, I watched it. In fact, we should not do a podcast on it because of this very reason. It was boring, and I didn't care about anything. And that's saying something for a Tom Cruise movie and a Universal Monster movie. It was bad. It was like not fun, bad, bad, bad. So do not watch that. But interestingly enough, they just announced today that Radio Silence is going to be doing a Universal Monster movie. They're going to be doing Dracula's Daughter, which is a weird one to pick.
Interesting.
Have you ever seen Dracula's Daughter?
No. Is that like what kind of is that like Hammer horror or is it
No.
like
It is the direct sequel to the Bela Lugosi movie.
Really?
It's the first time ever that a movie we like to think that the Marvel universe, right, all these interconnected movies, but it's not true. The Monsters verse was the first to do it. Now, some people will tell you, oh, the Abbott Costello films, when Lon Chaney was the Wolfman and Lugosi came back as Dracula for his one and only time and all that. But no, Dracula's Daughter picks up immediately after Dracula with Bela Lugosi. And right after Edward Van Sloan, who plays Van Helsing, has staked Dracula, he gets arrested. And he's still playing that same character, and it's moments after, and he's explaining why he killed Dracula, and then Dracula's daughter shows up. So it is the first time there's like a direct sequel to a horror movie. The first like universe is starting to get built. Furthermore, this is in 1930 something. I want to say 36, 39, somewhere in there. It was a little bit like year-wise after the movie, like other monster movies had come out in between. But it was still in the 30s. Dracula's daughter is queer. She's a lesbian and or bisexual. I don't know if she either way. It's kind of vague.
It's like it's not just veiled. It's like
it's in the articles that I've read recently to double check myself because I only watched it one time. It was coded where it was like it's very clearly that she's a lesbian, but they don't outright state it because it would have riled up feathers, but she is like seductively moving on women through like her appearance. Dracula's daughter is very feminine appearing, but very, very masculine in, what's the word? Demeanor. Okay. You know what I mean? It's very interesting, but it's the first time you have like a queer character, I think in cinema, period. And so it's got all of these fucking groundbreaking things about it. Like the first movie universe, kind of sequel, kind of, queer representation, like it's fucking nuts. And Radio Silence is doing a modern day remake. I don't know why they do that, and they're not doing like a Dracula first, but
you would think that you would want to do Dracula first, yeah.
You would think, but maybe they're just afraid to touch it because of Invisible Man and The Mummy and all that. Like the Wolfman with Benicio del Toro did not do well. And even though that movie's not terrible, that movie, I rewatched it a couple of months ago. It's not bad. It really wasn't, and especially if you desaturate it and turn it black and white, it's even better. But not to go all haunted home theater on you guys, but that would be my recommendation if you do rewatch the Wolfman movie with Benicio del Toro and fucking Anthony Hopkins is fucking Van Helsing again. He's not Van Helsing again. I'm sorry. He plays Talbot's father, the Wolfman's father. So, but he's in all these fucking movies. It's like, oh, we're remaking a Universal. Get Anthony Hopkins on the phone, quick. But anyway, I'm very much interested to see what they do with that. It's just very shocking to me, especially because I said all those things about it because I really watched it excited, not realizing up until like last year that there was a direct sequel to Lugosi's Dracula with Van Sloan returning as Van Helsing. He's in the movie maybe 10 minutes.
Right.
I don't think he dies. He's just in jail the entire time. It's a boring movie. That's the only thing that makes me really scratch my head about it. And maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset. Like I said, I've only seen it once, but it was very, very slow, boring movie. And it wasn't slow, boring in the good, charming, atmospheric way the original Dracula was.
Like there's no atmospheric stuff going on. There's
it feels very much like a soap opera.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I got to rewatch it. I don't know, but that's what they're doing. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I just wanted to bring that up. I don't remember why.
Yeah.
Oh, because Radio Silence is doing it. That's why. So that's where we're at. Folks, none of you have emailed us. None of you have tweeted us. Is anybody out there? These are going to get discovered by aliens after humanity has been long wiped out. Being like, this Jow and Rainwater have some really good fucking conversations.
The AI's listening to us.
Oh, that's true. They're learning how to make their own podcasts. So.
Yeah. Somebody's listening to us.
I'll buy it. All right. If you have listened to us, thank you for tuning in. We always appreciate your listenership. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.